What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here of the Side Guys Football Forum. I am one of your co-hosts, Amar Desai, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys, Mr. Tad Desai. And Tad, breaking news in case people are not following us on Twitter or on Instagram, but we finally met in person. This is exciting stuff, man.
It was crazy. It was weird. And of course, I was late to our first meeting because naturally. But no, it was awesome.
So change.
Yeah, God, no. I'm going to be late to my own wedding whenever that happens. Like, that's actually going to happen. But probably why the wedding's a couple of years off. But that's besides the point. But no, it was great seeing you. I got to, for those of you who don't know, Amar came to visit me in Dallas last week, and we spent a couple days, drove him around town, showed him all the sights and and everything, and it was a good time. I really enjoyed having you over. He finally got to meet Cap. He was like, thank God he's not this vocal during shows. I'm like, right.
So true. He is not that vocal during the podcast, which is actually a very good thing, but he was definitely his lively self, if people have seen on the YouTube videos. So it was super awesome to meet you in person finally. I think just the next thing that you got to do now is you got to come out to the West Coast now. I've came to Dallas.
It's going to happen.
You got to come out to the West Coast. We got to see all the rest of the LAFB crew. We have yet to meet them in person too. So that'll be an adventure for sure. But yeah, good to finally meet in person after working together for close to 2 years. We're coming up on our
was the weird thing.
anniversary,
it was just like, it's funny because who was I talking to? I think I was talking with my mom or someone. I was like, yeah, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary, and I just kind of stopped myself. I was like, oh, holy shit, it's been 2 years. I was like, wow, that's weird, which is also weird because we started during the pandemic, which is also very depressing to think about that. It's still going on, but on a happier side, we got to fulfill your entertainment for the pandemic, so you're welcome, people.
Very true. Very true. And also some more fun that you can have during the pandemic is you can bet with our new partners at Bet Online. Yeah. So our partners at Bet Online continue to be the #1 source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's, finals are over, but maybe you got, the NBA futures
and
now.
By the way, congratulations to you, Warriors, NBA champions.
Yes,
there we go.
That was exciting stuff. That was great stuff.
And you were worried they were going to lose.
I wasn't worried they were going to lose.
Was it 4-1?
It's 4-2. They won game
4-2.
6. So
okay. Okay, so we called it. We actually called that behind the scenes. We both did.
We did.
Golden State in 6.
But yeah, so the finals are over. The NBA draft is over, but maybe there's some futures on where free agents are going to sign. Obviously, win totals, who's going to win all the different awards, so you can bet there. The NHL Stanley Cup finals are going on right now, so you can definitely bet there. We got Major League Baseball right in the middle of the season here, coming close to the All-Star break. We got the UFC fighting news, MMA, boxing, all of that. And, of course, I think the most important one, the NFL futures. So you got your win-loss totals, you got the different awards, you got who's going to be making the Super Bowl. I mean, there's a ton of things out there, and Bet Online has you covered. So, hey, why don't you head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive 50% of a welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE, that's capital BLEAV, to get the bonus and get into the action. Once again, that promo code is capital BLEAV, BELIEVE. Get a 50% welcome bonus on top of your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. So, Tad, we're going to be continuing on. This is part of the stuff that we discussed when we were in person, just more fantasy content. So we're continuing on, finishing out our new head coaching series. We got this episode, then we got one more coming up down the pipe as well. And this episode, we're recovering the Denver Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett and the coach that you have covered, which is technically a new hire, even though he was hired within.
My next two teams are technicalities here because it was just so weird, and we'll get into the weirdness with both of them because ironically both of them involve Tom Brady because of course.
It's true. And so the technicality that we're talking about is, of course, Dennis Allen taking over for Sean Payton, who decided to step down and just take the year off, I guess, or I'm not sure what he's going to be doing.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, he signed a deal with NBC. Unless that fell through.
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, so he's going to be with like Dungy and Florio? No, Florio's with...
No, Florio's now in the broadcast
with
because
ESPN,
Al Michaels is
right?
with Thursday Night Football, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's so hard. It's like the constant shifting. But anyway, I'm 90% sure. I could be mistaken, but Sean Payton definitely signed some type of TV deal, but I'm pretty sure it's with NBC. Now, to talk about why Sean Payton randomly stepped down, apparently he's been thinking about it for a couple of years now, and he just didn't want to leave the Saints to, go coach the Panthers or I won't say the Browns. I don't know, some crap team where it's like, okay, maybe that ruins my legacy. He wanted to wait until the right opportunity came along. Well, for those of you who do not know, and I feel like I've been singing this from the soapbox. Is it soapbox? Is that the right term?
Singing it from the soapbox. I don't know if
singing
that's the right
from the soapbox.
Term,
shouting it from the mountaintop. There
shouting
we
from
go.
the rooftop.
Rooftop, mountaintop, whatever. This is one of the craziest stories ever. So Tom Brady retired because he wanted the Buccaneers to get ready for life without him. So he retired, again in quotes. Sean Payton stepped down, all because behind the scenes, the Miami Dolphins were organizing, bringing in Sean Payton for an ungodly amount of money, bringing in Tom Brady to be both player and basically GM, VP of player personnel or whatever. But basically he'd be making all the calls. And then after Brady retired, he had an ownership stake that was going to be put in a trust that obviously that trust would be given to him. I think that's proper terminology. I need to get my lawyer of a father on to describe all this. But basically Tom Brady was going to be a part owner of the Dolphins and that was their, pitch for him to come play. And it all fell apart because that's why they fired Flores. Remember way back in February when we were all like, why would you fire Flores? That's why. Because they thought they were going to land Payton. But when Flores sued the Dolphins, something they did not see coming, that just tanked the entire deal. So that's why Brady came out of retirement. That's why Payton all of a sudden was like, what do I do now? And it's like TV. So that's why I think that Payton will probably do TV for a year or two, basically until Mike McCarthy gets fired, and then he's going to go to the Cowboys. Because that's been a rumor for a decade now of Payton to Dallas. But anyway, let's talk about his successor. Dennis Allen, shall we? Because, Amar, it was funny. When I first took on the Saints, assignment, look at that for teacher lingo, I was like, okay, I like this hire. I will defend this hire. The more research I did, I was like, I cannot defend this hire. I can't do it. This was a dumb hire by and I shouldn't even say hire. This was a dumb promotion by the Saints. So, okay, without further ado, let's get to the meat of it. Quick intro, Dennis Allen. He was apparently a legendary safety with the Texas A&M Aggies in the 90s. They have their own, the name of this defense had their own Wikipedia page. I've never heard of them. Do you want to know why, Amar?
No idea.
Because even A&M's legends still suck.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, take that, Aggies. But anyway.
Didn't Von Miller go to Texas A&M?
Yeah, okay, but tell me one thing he did while he was there.
Okay, I don't know.
Exactly my point. Texas A&M, there was, we have Johnny Man. We have Von Miller. Well, you know what? You still never won the SEC, so shut up. God, I hope they've never won the SEC. I'm pretty sure they haven't. Have they? Okay, you don't know.
I don't know.
All right, God. But
you're asking the wrong person when it comes to college football history.
But dude, let me tell you, from a dude in Texas, A&M is the most insufferable. They're the most annoying fans in the state. UT fans are a close second, which now that they got Arch Manning, man, I'm conflicted about that because I love Arch, but God, if he's good, UT fans are going to suck. Anyway, we're getting off base. So
you're getting off base.
Get me started at A&M. I could literally make an entire episode out of that. I'm not even joking. So anyway, Dennis Allen was a safety with a legendary Texas A&M defense in the 90s, and, good for him. So he then took a job with the Falcons, the Saints, and the Broncos. And so the Broncos is the first time he was the full-time defensive coordinator. So I was like, okay, let's look into his stats then. That's when I kind of realized, I'm like, there's a bit of an issue here. So his first year when he was the Broncos defensive coordinator, they ranked in 23rd in yards allowed.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good at all.
But it was funny because I was like, well, they did rank him 5th in sacks, but that was right. I believe that was Von Miller's either his rookie or his sophomore year. So that was when it was Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, that kind of combo. And I'm like, okay, but if you don't rank top 10 in sacks, it's almost even worse. That's kind of a given that you're going to be in top 10 in sacks. Yeah. So it's like, okay. So he was hired to be the Raiders head coach in 2012, a fact that I am not going to lie, I completely forgot about that until I was doing my research. I was like, oh, that's right. I do remember. That's why I know your name. I think that's why I was like, oh, that's a good hire when they did it because I vaguely remember the name. Wasn't great. really wasn't great. So his first season, he had to start Matt McGloin because Terrell Pryor was hurt halfway through the season. That's and I'm not gonna put that blame on him, but imagine being like, all right, coach, who we start, Matt McGloin or Terrell Pryor? I'd just be like, who the hell cares?
In all fairness, just really quick, Terrell Pryor actually looked good in that offense, and then unfortunately, because he got hurt, that's when things definitely went downhill.
Yeah.
After.
No, I remember the Terrell Pryor hype when he, what was that, like an 80-yard rush he had his first game?
Yeah.
No, Terrell Pryor definitely had his, flash in the pan moment. But either way, well, real quick, Matt McGloin, where'd he go to college?
I want to say Michigan State, but I don't think.
Right conference, wrong school, my friend. Penn State.
Penn State, that's what it was.
Yep. So anyway, he went 4-12. He being Dennis Allen went 4-12 in both 2012 and 2013, and then he started 2014 0-4 and was promptly canned. Probably rightfully so.
Yeah.
So then he was hired again by the Saints as a defensive assistant, and then when this was another name blast from the past, Rob Ryan was fired as DC. Dennis Allen was then promoted to DC for the Saints. Would you like to know the outcome of the Saints' next game after promoting Dennis Allen to DC?
Pretty sure they probably got totally destroyed.
They lost 24-6. Do you want to know to who?
It's probably some lowly team. Houston, I want to say.
The Houston Texans.
Yeah. They probably weren't that lowly, though. They had, Matt Schaub was still
Texans,
okay.
man. No. We are not adjusting. We're not, doing the adjusted scale here. We're not doing that.
They probably still had Arian Foster, DeAndre Hopkins still, J.J. Watt, obviously.
I don't think so, no. I'm pretty sure this was last year. I didn't look at the year, but I'm pretty
sure
this
was last year.
I'm pretty sure it was last year.
Okay, then never mind.
Yeah, no, especially never mind. No, it definitely wasn't the Arian Foster days. Definitely not.
All right. I thought I was thinking, okay, got it.
So, anyway, he is now the head coach for some reason. So, all this to boil down to say, when, bringing it all the way back to fantasy, I'm allowed one F word even on the YouTube videos, right, Amar?
I think so.
Okay. Stay the fuck away from the Saints defense. Don't touch them. Not even as a streaming option. I don't care if they're playing the New York freaking Jets. Stay away. I don't trust Allen. I don't trust his defense. I don't know how this guy is still in the league. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I doubt it, but we'll see. Now, in terms of fantasy, this is a guy I would love to talk about because this man is a bona fide genius, and it is shocking that he has not gotten more head coaching attention. Or maybe you can answer to why, but this man is Pete Carmichael. He has been the Saints offensive coordinator since 2009. Same OC for over a decade. That's almost unheard of. And I've never heard this man's name even whispered in the head coaching circles. I don't know why.
I mean, honestly, we were sort of talking about this before we recorded, but some people don't aspire to go that high. We've seen it so many times. That's some people succeed more as coordinators than head coaches. We kind of saw this with, the coach that I'm going to bring up later, Nathaniel Hackett, but he replaced Vic Fangio, excellent coordinator in the league. Fortunately, I think just he got his head coaching job a little bit too late and just it didn't lead to success. We saw this with Norv Turner at times. He was not a successful head coach, very successful as offensive coordinator.
Who was who's the Vikings guy who went on to be the Pat Shurmur?
Pat Shurmur, yeah. So, he was a great offense coordinator, not the greatest head coach, obviously. And then also you have to look that they had Joe Lombardi as their offensive coordinator at one point. Mm-hmm. He left to go take the Detroit Lions job. It did not succeed in Detroit. So maybe Carmichael saw that. He's like, I think I'm going to stay where I am and, continue to groom Drew Brees and make him a future first ballot Hall of Famer sort of thing. So it's maybe he was just comfortable where he was.
No, I think that's a perfect explanation. I think you're probably 100% right there because I equate it to this is when I first started teaching, my mom was like, you can be a principal one day. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And then after 2 weeks, I was like, fuck no, I'm not. Sorry. I know that's the second F word, but I was like, no, I'm not being a principal. And she was like, really? I'm like, no. I'm totally comfortable being a teacher. I'll be in charge of a committee or something. I'm okay taking on some more responsibility, but I am not taking on the head honcho job because that is just terrible. I'm like, I'm not doing that whatsoever. So I think that's a pretty good comparison there. But
it's nice. As offense coordinator, you just have to worry about the
right,
offense.
Exactly,
you don't have to worry about the entire roster. You have to worry about like so many like meetings and like so many press conferences and getting blamed with stuff. It's just like, you're sort of behind the scenes.
Your player gets arrested at like 2 a.m. You're not the one getting called at first. You're like, okay, I'll figure out about it tomorrow. Like it's all right. But yeah, so Carmichael though is, like I said, he's been the Saints offensive coordinator since he basically went over with Sean Payton. So since 2009, he was an assistant with the Saints a little bit before, and then he was promoted to offensive coordinator in 2009. Look, I would love to tell you, and I feel like I always say the one of two things. Every single one of these is they either don't have a set system or it's a wide zone blocking scheme. But you know what? That's why these are the most successful teams in the NFL or successful assistant coaches, is because those two things usually lead to success. It's flexibility or a system that is good enough not to require it. But what's truly extraordinary is, and this was truly frustrating growing up in the 2010s playing fantasy football, is the Saints had what basically equates to the air raid offense in the NFL. They're the closest thing I've ever seen to that. Maybe Air Coryell. Is that it?
Coryell, yep.
Coryell, okay. That was before I was born, so I got to double check that. But maybe Air Coryell was close to this, but obviously, like I said, I wasn't witness to that. But they basically were an air raid offense after they lost Marquise Golston and Jimmy Graham and other receivers that I'm probably blanking on. Carmichael was smart enough to realize, okay, we got to change up this offense. So how does he do that? Well, they get a guy named, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Alvin Kamara, and I believe the 3rd or 4th round, which, by the way, Amar, if you haven't, look up I want to say 2012 Alabama running back depth chart. It's ridiculous. Kamara's like 4th string on that depth chart. It's not even fair. But anyway,
Kamara played for Alabama?
So he played for Alabama, but then he got buried under the depth chart. So then he transferred to Tennessee. Exactly. Okay. So he was like 4th string behind Ingram and Henry and Yeldon. He was also buried behind Yeldon. Yeah. But anyway, so get this. The Saints finished in the top 9 of total yardage every year since Carmichael's been their OC. So no matter what, you can bet those Saints are racking up the yards, which means particular value in what kind of league, Amar?
PPR leagues.
PPR leagues, baby. It doesn't matter if they score those touchdowns. They'll just be racking up those yards. So something to keep your mind on. They went from one of the first offenses to emphasize the pass, like I said in the air raid, to one of the rush-heavier offenses in 2020. So in 2020, they finished 6th in rushing yards and 1st in rushing touchdowns. Since then, they have done the same. So they've stayed ahead of teams like the Titans and the Ravens in terms of rushing touchdowns and rushing yards. That is not an easy task to do, consistently. Mm-hmm. So this offense, and I'm, hardly breaking news. Saints offense, good. But basically the key factor to Carmichael's system is that it better helps quarterbacks read defenses. And look, I know we don't pretend to be experts. We are experts, but I need someone smarter than me to break down how. Because the way he does this is so good, I don't know. So Taysom Hill and Teddy Bridgewater, Andrew Brees, all set multiple times career highs in completion percentage under Carmichael's system. So it's just something about the way he can speak to quarterbacks. I know we talked about Joe Moore, if you remember him, or Tom Moore. Or there was some Moore with the Colts way back when. I think it was Tom Moore.
Not Joe Moore.
Tom Moore. Tom Moore is the quarterback whisperer. Who is another quarterback? Sean McVay, but McVay has actually earned that. Carmichael is a quarterback whisperer. I don't know what he does to these guys, but anytime a quarterback goes, even Jameis Winston, look, I'm a Jameis Winston hater. He even looked better before he got hurt, much to my chagrin, because I said he was going to suck leading up to that season. But hey, he proved me wrong. So all this to say, let's get into the fantasy who can benefit. Obviously, Mark Ingram. Let's get that one out of the way. Kamara beat a dude half to death in Vegas. Probably going to serve a suspension. If they are going to hand down Deshaun Watson, what the rumored suspensions for him are going to be, I don't think they're going to go much softer on Kamara. It's not like he can do those both back-to-back, and time is running out to suspend both of them.
Yep. That's very true.
So Amar, what's your prediction? Give me, I don't know, 8 to 10 week or 9 to 12. Where you think Kamara's going to be going for?
Kamara, I'm leaning more towards that 9 to 12. I think it's going to be a little bit longer. I don't think it's going to be a full season. I think he's going to get a handful of games towards the end of the season, or maybe he'll play a handful and then he'll get suspended. I don't know if he'll take time for the whole suspension to come out and he'll try to appeal and all that stuff, but I'm leaning more towards that 9 to 12.
I'm going more to the 8 to 10, but I mean, it's just, we're splitting hairs at that point. So either way, Kamara's going to be missing some time this season.
Yes, significant time.
Yeah, significant time. So Mark Ingram, look, he's old. He's not as good of a receiving threat as Kamara is, but like I said before, this has been one of the most efficient rushing offenses. Well, both. Well, when Breeze was there with the passing. But this has been one of the most efficient rushing offenses we've ever seen. So I think that Ingram, if Kamara does get that suspension, instantly catapults himself into the low-end running back 1 category. So depending on when you draft, if you're one of the early drafters, like that draft in July because you're a psychopath, well, in that case, I would honestly think that you could probably land Ingram in the 3rd or 4th round, and that's like 2nd-round talent, in my opinion. So that would be good. This guy I absolutely love, Chris Olave. I really think so. This was actually surprising. Guess who was the top ranked Saints receiver in terms of fantasy last year?
I don't think it's Traequan Smith. He was hurt a lot of the season.
It was not Traequan Smith. Because it was funny you should say that because spoiler alert, Traequan Smith is the next player I'm going to discuss because he was my second, and then I did my research. I was like, damn it, and he got demoted to 3rd.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Marquise Callaway.
Callaway, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So I had to look up if he was even still on the roster. So Marquise Callaway finished, and this is again surprise, but this is why I like Olave. Callaway, nothing against you, buddy. I'm sure you're a good receiver, and God knows you're more athletic than I am. That's a tall bar to clear. But anyway, he finished 38th among receivers, which was shockingly high. I was like, okay, all right. I mean, that's not like amazing, but for a no-name receiver that stepped up in Michael Thomas's absence. So if a guy like Callaway can step up to 38 with a quarterback carousel of it's Taysom Hill, it's Jameis Winston, it's Taysom Hill, it's Jameis Winston. I'm pretty sure they had some other guy in there at one point. It was just a disaster.
They had Trevor Siemian at one point.
Trevor Siemian, thank you. I was trying to remember who it was. Thank you. It was Trevor Siemian. So they had just a disaster quarterback, not the fault of the Saints, just bad luck. They still got a receiver at 38. Now, they have one of the most talented, in my opinion, the most talented wide receiver in the draft. Sorry, Drake London fans. Nothing against him, but I like Olave better. And now that they have hopefully a more stable quarterback situation, even if they switch between Dalton and Winston, that's still more stable than what they had before. Because Taysom Hill, I love the dude. He is not a starting caliber quarterback. I'm willing to admit that at this point. So I really think Chris Olave is a big, big time sleeper to look out for. Even to the point, I think he's draftable.
Interesting.
I know. It's a little bit of a hot take there. And then with Traequan Smith, that's another guy I picked out. Mostly because he has, like I said, this is one of the nice things about returning with Pete Carmichael. It's the system. Traequan Smith has been in that system for years now. I really think that now he is a guy I think is a streaming option. Look at the matchups because he is a guy that's either going to go off for 15 points or is going to get you 0.5 points. It's the Saints deal. So overall, there's some people trust on the Saints offense. I wouldn't go near any of their quarterbacks. Do not go near the tight ends. The Saints offense, ever since Jimmy Graham's left, does not like their tight ends. So stay away from the quarterbacks, tight ends, but receivers and running backs, worth taking a look at.
Exactly. And, Ted went through a lot here, but there's definitely more that he went into in an article.
Right before we started recording, I was like, I think this one might be short. And no.
No. But yeah, make sure you tune in for an article.
We need a shut up button. Just something like you just press it and it just tells me to shut up.
You definitely need to check out the article that he wrote that goes into further more about the New Orleans Saints.
Believe it or not, yes, it is further.
Yeah, there's a lot more that he went in there.
You can ask him. I walked him through the stats yesterday. He's like, how are you going to do that on the show? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. So we're going to get into our next coach here, with the limited time that I have, is that head coach of
we had
Denver
another coach?
Broncos.
My bad. I didn't know that.
Yeah. The new head coach of the Denver Broncos is
I thought
Nathaniel
it was the Tad
Hackett.
Desai football forum. My bad.
Oh man. So unfortunately, Vic Fangio, we brought this up earlier. Just he was very successful as a coordinator, but just maybe he got his head coaching job a little bit too late and just wasn't ready to modernize with the NFL look that's going on right now. And just it wasn't successful. He went 19-30 in 3 total seasons, and they decided to move in a different direction. They hire in Nathaniel Hackett, now the 18th head coach in Denver Broncos coaching franchise history.
18?
He is number 18, correct?
Wow, that is more than I would have anticipated.
Yeah. So Hackett started his coaching career on the West Coast. He started the college ranks with UC Davis and Stanford, mainly as quality control coaches, position coaches. Made the jump to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Buffalo Bills in the NFL level with quality control roles once again. Then he was able to jump back to the college ranks, was able to get an offensive coordinator position with Syracuse. He became the passing game coordinator, then the quarterbacks coach, then the tight ends coach, and eventually the offensive coordinator. Then once again was able to parlay that to come back to the NFL. He got a job with the Buffalo Bills, who was previously one of his previous employers.
Time out. Are there any offensive positions this guy has not held?
He's held quite a few. So, I mean, he's been around. So, he's got a lot of good experience. So, came back to the Buffalo Bills as offensive coordinator. Later went on to the Jacksonville Jaguars as a quarterbacks coach and an offensive coordinator with them. Followed up with his most recent position, that's being the offensive coordinator with the Green Bay Packers. With the Green Bay Packers stat, he has had back-to-back top 10 scoring offenses, including a number 1 finish in 2020. This is something that the Broncos need to fix because they've been bottom 10 in scoring in that same amount of span, which includes a bottom 5 ranking in both 2019 and 2020. So, I mean, Hackett could come in. He could fix this offense. I know it wasn't one of the more popular hires compared to all the other coaches out there, but I think he's one of those guys that's like, one of those boring hires, but he could come in. He could do a really good job. You're pairing him up with, the newly acquired Russell Wilson. So, I mean, there's a lot to be optimistic for as a Broncos fan, as well as a fantasy owner, because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of great, lots of these players, the stock is trending upwards now because of the acquisition of Russell Wilson. You got an offensive-minded head coach. I think it's going to be a really good place to find a lot of great players for your fantasy roster. So
real quick, you're saying you think he can hack it as a coach?
He definitely can. He definitely can. Looking at his philosophy, so we've brought this up many a time before. That's like, there are lots of systems and concepts that coaches use across the entire NFL. All 32 coaches employ them. This is a more interesting one that I wanted to talk about. It's called the K-Gun offense. So if you're not familiar with the K-Gun offense, it's pretty much a glorified version of a no-huddle, hurry-up offense. So when this was employed in the early 90s with the Buffalo Bills with Jim Kelly, Marv Levy. They did this against the Philadelphia Eagles, if I remember correctly.
Fun fact, by the way, Marv Levy got to start coaching at my high school.
There you go. So they started this, and pretty much they came right out of the gate with this style of offense. Jim Kelly, I think, went 7 for 7, threw for 169 yards and 3 touchdowns, and they were up already 28-0 on top of the Eagles in just the first quarter. Like, I mean, this was something that the NFL had not seen yet. Now, obviously, we've modernized. We see a lot more of the, shotgun formation. We see a lot more hurry up. We see a lot of no huddle. It's a little bit more modernized, the air raid, a little bit of a mix of all that. But I think what's going to be good about this is that if you look at that time during the 90s when the Bills had such skilled players like Andre Reed, Dermot Thomas, James Lofton, obviously we talked about Jim Kelly. These are all guys that's like benefited from this style of offense because it kept the defense on their toes. They were tired. You got the versatility with Dermot Thomas being a running back as well as a gifted pass catcher. So this is actually going to benefit what type of offense that these players are running here. I mean, Denver has a lot of great skill players. I mean, you list them out. There's Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon. Obviously, we already talked about Russell Wilson. Like, this style of offense can succeed being that sort of like hurry up Sandlot style, which is what we sort of, associate with Russell Wilson to begin with. Like, I mean, he's talked about so many times having such a terrible offensive line because he has to play like, on the run sort of thing. But this style of offense can sort of take that and actually use it to its advantage. And I think he has the better skill pool here compared to what he had in Seattle. He had a really good talent in Seattle, don't get me wrong there, but I think this is just a little bit of a level up compared to what he had. You have a coach that's a little bit more modernized compared to Pete Carroll, I'd probably say, in the offensive coordinators they had there.
You're saying he's more modernized than a 70-year-old? Get out of here.
So I think, obviously when Nathaniel Hackett was hired, they sort of made that agreement together. That's like, let's get Russell Wilson. I think he can run this offense really well. So the K-Gun offense is something that's going to be very interesting. Russell Wilson is a great deep ball thrower, which is very good. Which is a primary concept of the K-Gun offense. You want to hit your deep balls. You're keeping the defense tired. They don't know what's going on. Eventually, you hit them for a deep shot that could take you for a touchdown. That's how you could score very quickly. So we should see a semblance of that. But also, we brought this up many times before, the West Coast offense. So his dad, Paul Hackett, was a coach in the NFL.
For me, it's wide zone blocking scheme. For you, it's West Coast offense. That's just
so his dad, Paul Hackett, was a coach back in the day as well. In fact, he was actually on the coaching staff in the mid 80s when Bill Walsh was the head coach. So he was on that team there. He won the Super Bowl in 1984. So he is very familiar with the West Coast offense. He has taken it to every other stop that he's been at. He was Kansas City offensive coordinator when Joe Montana was acquired by the team. So, he was familiar with that there. So he took it and he perfected it. So obviously his son, Nathaniel Hackett, is going to use some semblance of that as well. We also will see some of those West Coast principles applied to the run game. So we're going to see lots of gap schemes as opposed to we're going to see the zone blocking scheme instead of the gap scheme. This should benefit the running backs a little bit better with the play styles that they have. So all that aside, you can read all this in the article that's going to be coming up.
All that aside, just all that stuff.
Let's get into the actual players that are going to benefit from this. So obviously, I'm going to start with a guy that I just love. Tad, you know who I love here from the Denver Broncos, Javonte Williams, the running back.
Yeah, no, you do.
We saw this last year. He definitely
I one time mistook him for Michael Carter, and Amar yelled at me.
Very true. He definitely was starting to break out towards the end of the season. We saw him getting a lot more involved in the offense. We thought it was going to be the Javonte Williams show when there was a little bit of a question mark as far as whether Melvin Gordon was going to return, whether he was going to leave. He had some offers from teams. I was like, all right, this is it for Javonte Williams. Unfortunately, Melvin Gordon is coming back, but I think the Broncos...
Unfortunately, Melvin Gordon is still employed. Yeah.
Well, by the Broncos, that's the biggest thing. He can be employed, but just by the Broncos, killing Javonte Williams' stock to an extent. So even with that, Javonte Williams still has the better talent. I think the Broncos are going to recognize that. He's going to separate himself during training camp. He'll get more of the carries. I do like that Melvin Gordon is there. They have very similar play styles. So, they'll both benefit from this new offense being both dual threat running backs, both the runners and the pass catchers. But Javonte Williams, I definitely like. Low end RB1. This guy definitely has the talent. I think he's going to emerge. He's got a lot of the skills as a pass catcher as well as obviously in most leagues being PPR. So he's a guy that you definitely want to target towards the early part of your second round, maybe at the back end of your first round, depending on how big your league is. So we will see. We will see. But I like Javonte Williams. Everybody's talking about Courtland Sutton, but I brought this up before. I like Jerry Jeudy a little bit more in this system because, Courtland Sutton, obviously with the deep ball, Russell Wilson likes to throw it. He's definitely going to get a lot of fantasy points, but Jerry Jeudy is going to be more of that guy, the chain mover, the guy who's going to convert the third downs, the guy that's going to get you crucial conversions and move the ball down the field a little bit shorter. Then you get those home run plays to Courtland Sutton. So, hey, if you're converting small downs, if you're converting third downs, if you're just trying to move the chains, that's all beneficial in PPR leagues. So Jerry Jeudy will rack up the PPR points for you because
we love us some PPR,
a ton of receptions. But then also, the great thing about Jerry Jeudy is that he could take the top off the defense too. So, if you want to
that's why you were talking Courtland Sutton's the only home run threat. Like Jerry Jeudy, that's why he got drafted is he's a home run threat.
Exactly. So, it's you could use him in multiple ways compared to Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton's a gifted receiver. He could definitely play a very similar style, but Jerry Jeudy is just such a craftsman when it comes to his route running, coming very polished out of Alabama. Unfortunately, just derailed by injuries and, rookie year playing with Drew Lock and Trey Bridgewater and stuff. So, that hurt a little bit.
And running from the cops, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. But he's going to be fine.
He's
shifty
cleared of
everything.
When, avoiding those cops. He's just,
he's cleared of everything. He's
cut
good
that
to
corner
go.
And
Draft him with full confidence. It's going to be good. He's going to be more of a consistent weapon for Russell Wilson compared to Courtland Sutton. But I do like both receivers in this offense. And the last guy I want to bring up, Albert Okwuegbunam, the tight end.
My tight end sleeper of the year. Love that.
He is a very good tight end sleeper. Obviously, with the trade of acquiring Russell Wilson, Noah Fant is now playing in Seattle. Albert Okwuegbunam is now the starting tight end here in Denver. He's got the speed. He's got just the gifted ability to be a good catcher. I know they drafted Greg Dulcich out of UCLA. LAFB crew went wild when that happened. So, he may push him for some targets, but I think the athleticism that Okwuegbunam brings, I think that's just so much more of what Russell Wilson's probably looking for. Because once again, you can get those home run threats. He's such a mismatch for defenders, both at the middle linebacker position overall, as well as safeties and corners too. He's got the speed to blow by them. He's also got the height and the big bulk as well. So, great mismatch. I completely agree with Tad here. It's a sleeper tight end position. Definitely you want to look at him towards the end of your draft, possibly to fill in at the back end of your roster. Could eventually become a starting tight end for you. Like, I mean, he's got a lot of talent, and it's a very good system there. So, as mentioned,
whoa, real quick. Say his last name again.
Okwe
Okay, you got to walk me through this one. Okwe Ibenam.
Okwe Ibenam. You're getting better.
Okwe Ibenam. All right, there we go. Okay.
So bad when we were doing it during the draft process. But you've gotten better.
You know, it's been, 2-3 years since then? Like, it's
That's true. That's true.
Okwe Ibenam.
Okwe Ibenam. There you go.
All right. He even went to Missouri, and I still don't know.
It's true. That's true. So, as mentioned, Tad went into things a little bit longer, but there's still more that he's got to cover in his article with the Dennis Allen, the New Orleans Saints. I covered things, obviously, with Nathaniel Hackett and the Denver Broncos. Make sure you check it. That article.
Yeah. Captain Efficiency over here.
So that is all on the LAFB Network website. Make sure you go check it out there. It's totally revamped. It's a little bit, honestly, it's a very nicer looking website compared to the way that it looked before.
You will not get assaulted with ads anymore, we promise.
It's true. It's a lot more cleaner. We got a separate page for videos. I mean, we got all the videos that not just from our podcast, from the rest of the LAFB crew as well. So make sure you go check out the website. You'll find all our articles there for all the new head coaching hires that are still to come, as well as the ones that we've done in the past to help you get started with your fantasy draft prep, because it's going to be here sooner than you think. As mentioned, make sure you follow us at all of our handles down below. The Twitter handles, my personal handle, UpDesai23, Tad's at TadDesai94, got the show handle, The Desai Guys, and of course on Instagram at The Desai Guys as well. Make sure you subscribe and listen to your podcast wherever you decide to listen to your podcast, whichever platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, right on the LAFB Network website. There's a ton of platforms. Just hit subscribe. Always be up to date with all that. Subscribe to our YouTube page. I mean, everything. I mean, guys, we appreciate everything that you're doing, but we definitely need all you guys to be interactive too. We'd love to hear your thoughts on everything happening with fantasy football, regular football, non-football stuff. I mean, guys, we definitely want to start a conversation with you guys. Hit us up. We'd love to talk with you.
And like Amar said, is definitely check out that LAFB Network website, because we just had a sit down with some of the higher ups at LAFB. It went really, really well. We have some super awesome, super exciting stuff coming forward. Nothing that I know I'm allowed to say yet, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut there. But either way is if you want to know where to find some more videos in the future, the platforms may change there. So you're going to need to follow us everywhere possible so you know where to find what you want to find. Because, again, like Amar said, is we are ramping this fantasy stuff up big time in July. Like, I'm going, up to Michigan 4th of July. You're turning it the wrong way. It's this way. It's this way if you want to go up. It's right way. Righty-tighty. But, yes, we are ramping it up. So be sure to follow us in July, because, look, you're listening to, I should say, to a fantasy football champion. I know what it takes to win a league. I have done it before. I will do it again. I will gladly bring you along for the ride, but you need to subscribe and watch and listen to make sure that you get that trophy that is currently sitting in my closet. So be sure to do all that. As always, everyone, thank you for listening, and please stay safe.